Hello there, people of the internet. So times are tough right now, and my resources and capacity to be able to get ammunition for the YouTube channel here is extremely limited compared to how it normally would be, simply because of a severe lack of resources that is available to me right now. So I am debating on what it is that I'm going to be using whenever it comes to future content for this video channel right here. And I got a couple of really good ideas on what it is that I'm going to be doing. For the most part, I'm a reloader, and for the most part, I've got pretty good load data and pretty good ideas on how to load specific cartridges. And I've got a little bit of a cache of reloading supplies on standby, but certainly not as much as I would like, especially not what I need to actually run a gun channel on YouTube. So in the future, whenever I go out to the range, you guys are probably going to be seeing me doing a lot of shooting with 22 long rifle. This right here is probably the most that I'll be shooting with, simply because I can get a few hundred rounds of this stuff for not a lot of money. It's powerful enough to poke some holes and stuff, and it's accurate enough out of the rifles I'm using to be able to hit stuff at up to 100 yards, and I can't really shoot past beyond that. So 22 long rifle is probably going to be something that you guys see pretty regularly. I can pick up down at Walmart even like 500 rounds for $25-30 approximately, somewhere around that ballpark. But I also want to be able to use more than just 22 long rifle. Great cartridge, lots of fun, very inexpensive, but at the same time, this is a gun channel. I can't just go plink with 22 long rifle on every episode. So I have a couple of good ideas on what it is that I'm going to be doing, and a lot of it has to do with using the same bullets in literally every cartridge that I utilize. So here in the US, the main bullet diameter that you're going to find is, the main full power rifle bullet diameter that you're going to find, not 5.56, that is an intermediate cartridge, but the full power rifle bullet diameter is going to be 308. And for the most part, 308 is pretty inexpensive. Like if I get the cheapo full metal jacket stuff for factory seconds or something like that, then I can pick it up for like 10, maybe 15 cents a round, depending on how many I buy, whether it's in bulk, etc., depending on what shipping is. Either way, it's not going to be a whole lot of money to get 308 bullets. That being said, of course, 308 Winchester /7.62 NATO is going to take them. But there's a plethora of other cartridges out there that also take 308 bullets, or at least could be utilized with 308 bullets. Like, for example, I've got this 7.5 Swiss rifle right here. I've got like 7 rounds of 7.5 Swiss, and that's not enough to make the types of content that I want to make with this rifle, so I'm going to have to reload those. Luckily, 7.5 Swiss takes 308 diameter projectiles. So this is an example of a rifle that I can reload regularly and easily with those 308s using those same bullets. I'm probably going to just use 150 grain projectiles because those are the cheapest. I got this Ishapore in 7.62 NATO. However, 303 British takes a 311 diameter projectile, so I can in fact load those with 308 rounds, and I probably won't really be shooting beyond 100 yards, so that should be accurate enough to be able to hit things out on target. Same goes with the Mosin right here. The Mosin also takes a 311 diameter projectile, but I can load these with 308 projectiles, no problem. So I'll be able to fire my Mosins, my Lee Enfields, my 7.62 NATO rifles, my Swiss straight pull rifles. Whenever it comes to 7.62x39, 150 grain projectiles might be a little much for that particular cartridge. I don't know, maybe I'll do some research and see if I can find a 150 grain loading for 7.62x39. Now, whenever it comes to handgun cartridges, things get a little bit more complicated. I'm probably just going to stick with 9mm, because 9mm is powerful enough to handle basically everything. It's a straight wall cartridge. You don't really have to trim them. You can shoot them basically indefinitely. Reloading them is incredibly cheap, incredibly simple. All you gotta do is like size them and then put all the components in, and you have yourself another 9mm round. However, 9mm takes a 3.55 diameter projectile, I have used 9mm projectiles numerous times to load 38 Special and 357 Magnum. Now, granted, a 355 diameter projectile is slightly smaller than a 357, but it's not really any significant amount that would bother me much. So, for the most part, with 9mm, whenever I do my reloads, I do a 124 grain projectile. This way I can load those same projectiles into 38 Special / 357 Magnum. And I got a bunch of different 38 and 357 firearms that I can go ahead and run these rounds through. Not only that, but 9mm, I got a bunch of different firearms chambered in 9mm, including carbines that I can run out to the range. These things, the high point carbines here, are extremely accurate. I was playing with this thing the other day, and I was making headshots on a steel silhouette, like a half-sized steel silhouette, at like 100 yards or so. That was a good time. So, extremely accurate little 9mm carbine, and I could load the ammunition for that for very, very, very cheap amounts of money. For the 9mm, the projectiles cost me anywhere from 4 to 6 cents per shot, depending on where I get it, how much I get, etc., etc. And for my handgun cartridges, I pretty much only use tight group gunpowder. That is my typical go-to for handgun cartridges because it's so economic. Because it requires such a small amount of powder in order to achieve the ballistic capabilities and the pressures that you need to achieve with your cartridges. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that it has an insanely fast burn rate. So you can't exactly use it in rifle cartridges, or you won't get the pressures that you need. But yeah, tight group is one of my main go-tos for my pistol cartridges because it's pretty gosh darn inexpensive. A pound of it is like $35, $40 depending on where it is that you get it. And you can load a lot of cartridges from just a pound of tight group. And as far as rifle powders go, I'm probably just going to stick with 4064. That is a well-known, well-proven, well-used powder done by me. I've got a little bit of it at this point, and most of your old school military cartridges will be able to utilize 4064 along with your newer high-end stuff. It's just a slow burning powder that is really, really good for full powered rifled systems, especially if we're talking just the bolt action systems that I'm going to be running. So that is my philosophy, and that's the things I'm probably going to do. I doubt that I'll have the funds necessary to reload things like 45 ACP. I do have some stuff that I can reload some 45 ACP with, but once I'm out, I'm basically out because I'll be putting those components towards other things. Because 45 ACP, that's a 450 or 452, I can't remember. That's about a 45 caliber, 45 diameter projectile, .45 something. Can't quite remember off the top of my head. And there's not a whole lot of cartridges that I have that take that 452 or 450 diameter projectile. So I would only be loading 45 ACP with that particular cartridge. Same thing with 40 Smith & Wesson. I don't have anything besides 40 Smith & Wesson that would take the rounds, the bullets necessary to load this thing. So it's not like I would be able to run it into a whole bunch of different platforms. I've only got this one single handgun in 40 Smith & Wesson. So once I'm out of reloading components for 40 Smith & Wesson, then that's it. I'll be out of that. So yeah, 9mm. I can make a lot with that, including 357 and 38 Special, to where I can run my old school revolvers and my lever actions and whatnot, and I can have a lot of fun with that. And then full power rifles, 308 diameter projectiles can get you a lot of different cartridges. Granted, 8mm Mauser, one of my all-time favorite rounds. Well, 308 diameter projectiles is not going to work an 8mm Mauser, but that is, I mean, it would fire, but it would not be accurate at all because that bullet is way too small. But that is okay. I've got a fair amount, not necessarily a whole lot, but a fair amount of 8mm Mauser projectiles A while back, I got my hands on some Ethiopian 8mm Mauser, and it was just straight garbage. Did not go off at all. So I pulled the powder, and I pulled the projectiles and whatnot, and I'm just using that as for loading components. Many times, whenever you guys see me firing these 8mm Mausers, that's what I'm using. I'm using old surplus stuff that I have used for loading components. So that's probably what I'll use for a while, and hopefully before I run out of the 8mm Mauser stuff, I find myself in a better situation to where I have more resources. So all this being said, thanks for watching, folks. I do appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Let me put this down here.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.